Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California, this is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where our today's topic is Your Life is a Garden. What will you grow? The speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We have got around 9 members on Zoom, and I think people are still dialing in. Thank you so much, Vaish, for taking time today for showing us how to nurture our garden.
Oh, thank you so much for a warm welcome, JM. It's a pleasure to see you. Nice to see Shiva and Mukaravind and Chuck, Kripa, and Eskarg is here. Subramanya and Subhadra at the beach. Joshua, thanks for coming. Yes, JM, we're continuing in the vein that we've been in for some time, and making sense of the world is an exercise that gives one hope. If everything's random and we are controlled only by destiny, or there's no meaning to anything, then we might as well just sign off right now. But humans tend to have a sense that we can put things in order, and that's really the purpose of human life, to put things in order, to find order and meaning. There are various studies from various angles of vision. I grew up with a couple of parents, well, two parents, a mother and a father, and both of them were interested in finding meaning. I remember as a kid having conversations with my mother about her sociological observations. And I recently unearthed a paper that she wrote when I was just going into junior high school, and it was about me. She asked my permission to do a study of me, going from 6th grade into 7th. And when I read it, my sister gave it to me. I had no idea it was around anywhere. I do remember it being the subject of a study. And I was surprised how revealing it was when I read back to myself as an adolescent, a budding adolescent. I thought, well, was I that transparent? And it led me to see from her conclusions in the paper about how one might observe things in this world and find patterns, traits in certain people that resemble traits in others, and so forth. What to speak of in psychology, and then when we get into the physical sciences, there's some order, there's some meaning. And the ancient wisdom literatures, of course, they call them wisdom literatures for a reason. They impart wisdom, encourage us to understand the workings of the world, of our own minds, of how we interact with others, and how we can improve on those aspects of our life, all the aspects of our life. Personally, I find this encouraging because if there's a way to improve and we have an impetus to improve, then, oh, please give me the information. I would like to try to follow the step-by-step process. It could feel, we might feel hopeless at times and think, oh, I could never do this. But there's lots of coaching, and there's lots of ways in which if we can verify the information that we're getting, we can cultivate a better way of life. And I deliberately use the word cultivate because today's about gardening, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that metaphor is so applicable to our lives. Yeah, I'm not going to give it all away now, but let's just start by going into a different state of consciousness. Let's see if we can switch. This is an interesting study of ourselves to see how we might switch the state of consciousness we're in now. What would you describe your state of consciousness as right now? If you were just to give one sentence observation of where you've been the last 10, 20, 30 seconds, where you are kind of right now, how would you describe it? Maybe put it in the chat box or just speak up and say what you feel like. Is that hard? Scrambled, okay. That's a thing. That's really a thing, actually. Even Patanjali Muni, who's famous for what you call yoga psychology, looking at the states of mind, describes something like that. Scrambled means there's a cacophony of sounds in our minds that are pulling us in different directions. Mukaravind, excited to learn. Okay, I feel like that too. Anybody else? Can you describe your state of mind? It's sometimes helpful to observe our own state of mind and say, where am I right now? How am I feeling? Observe our state of mind. What state of mind are we in?
Glad I'm here.
Bit nervous about forthcoming event. There's things coming up, big things for Radhakripa to manage, and he's slightly nervous about them. Shiva says, good to be in a familiar Zoom room. Yeah. That's a nice feeling, right? A place where we have some resort. I was driving, so feeling competitive. Okay. Not in one state, says S. Garag. Now, because it's an abbreviation, I'm saying your name in a funny way. Please enlighten me, if you can. So if I speak your name, I'm not calling you some combination of the wrong syllables. All right, let's see if we can shift states of consciousness, and we're going to try an experiment together, if you wish, doing mantra meditation. First, look at slide number 14 on this deck. It describes 3 words in a very famous mantra, and it gives some meaning to them. It's a description of what's called the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra has 3 words, Hare, Krishna, Rama, and Krish means the whole of existence, or it means attraction. Na means one who ends material suffering, or it also means bliss. It's the na in Ananda, which means bliss. Rama means enjoyment arising from spiritual experience, and Hare, the spiritual energy of the original conscious source. Even those sound a little bit abstract, but at least it gives some understanding. It's really a source mantra. It's meant to go back to our original source. And those 3 words are said to be sacred names of the Supreme. So by repeating them, you can come to a different state of consciousness. And now I'm going to try a group activity. I'm not going to chant this mantra, but the Nitai Gauranga mantra. Nitai Gauranga. 5 syllables. And I'll put on a drone. And let's try switching to a meditative state. Sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago. And maybe close your eyes and relax and just meditate on your breath. Become inwardly focused. Be aware. You're all good. I can tell you that. The reason you're all good? Your consciousness. And you're fine. Right now you're fine. You'll always be fine, because what you are is more important than what you have or what's around you. And to come into the present and realize our own relationship with our source, we can chant this mantra, Nitai Gauranga, which has to do with our source, which is eternal and sustaining. So I'm going to say the mantra 5 times. If you just enter into the mantra yourself, you can say it out loud with me simultaneously behind muted mics. And bring your full focus of attention to the sound vibration. Let any other considerations slough off and go in a different direction. Be in the present. Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga. And now just notice the sound vibration and how it's gone into your ears, may still be resonating within the cells of your body. Appreciate that you're here right now and you have your life. You've always had it, you always will have it, and it's creative and joyful. And bring your awareness back to your breath, back into your body, which Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gītā is a field. It's a field of activity. Open your eyes, and we'll come back into the Zoom room and discuss. So we're affected by the world that we're in, and when we cultivate a particular kind of consciousness over time, we may make some adjustments to our daily routine for the sake of cultivating a higher consciousness. Of course, the state of our consciousness determines not only where we're going, but how we interact with others and how we feel about ourselves. Every aspect of our lives has to do with the state of our consciousness. We've been operating on the information and discussing over the last several sessions about the three modalities of the world. And the fact that they're so well defined is very helpful. There's information in the Bhagavad Gītā and elsewhere about how we're affected by these three powerful forces of the world, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And when we know their characteristics, and we also know that we're not helpless against them if we learn how to cultivate our consciousness. And as an example, what Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gītā is that we're constantly fighting with these modes or against the modes. They're oppressive in many ways, especially the lower modes of nature. But there are processes through which we can rise to the higher modes of nature, especially to sattva, and we can transcend it. We can break through to the fourth dimension and experience our eternal nature. And even as we live in the world where we're affected by the modes of material nature, we may be, if I may use the word, impervious to the modes because we've found our spiritual center and we've come to conscious awareness of ourselves as conscious beings beyond matter. And we're not susceptible to the modes. Or when we're affected by the modes, we're trained enough so that we can rise above them. We can move from the lower modes of nature to the higher modes and there find a respite so that we can go on with our spiritual practice. So let's look at a few ideas from today's deck. And the first is the very title, your life is a garden, what will you grow? That's a good question to ask ourselves. And the very metaphor itself suggests that there are possibilities for us. And in the Bhagavad Gītā, Krishna, in speaking about this, gives a definition of knowledge. And he says that real knowledge means to understand that our bodies and minds, these are our gross and subtle physical bodies, are a field of activity. In Sanskrit, it's called kshetra. Kshetra jnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yatach jnanam matam mama. He says, true knowledge, when I say true, I mean knowledge that actually helps us, is to know that we're the knower of the field. There's a big difference between being the field and being the knower of the field. And when you are aware that you're the knower of your field and that you're not the field, Krishna says this is knowledge. So what's in it? What's in that for us? Well, if we look at slide number 3, we have this view of somebody planting a garden. Has anybody here ever planned a garden, however small it might have been? Or if you might have a few potted plants, that's a garden also. If you live in a place where you don't have a lot of dirt. And Chuck said yes, Vicky said yes, Manu. And what was it like to plan your garden? Well, how did you go about the process? I'm interested. I planned a couple of gardens. I keep reinventing my garden also, and it keeps reinventing itself. How did it feel, Chuck, to plan your garden? How did you go about it? And what was your impetus for doing that?
So Lee and I got a spot in the Stanford Community Garden, which was much anticipated after being on the wait list for like a year. But we made a lot of mistakes early on. We wound up with an overabundance of a single crop in the beginning. So we had zucchinis coming out of our ears, and we had to learn to plan a little bit more to have more variety. So we're still learning, but the current iteration, we're trying to do a more of a rotation strategy, have some cover crops to fix nitrogen and kind of rotate the different areas within the garden bed is the current approach that we've learned from fellow gardeners.
Well, I like that. There's a lot in that. That's the extended metaphor of what I'm talking about today. The very fact that you strategy and that you learned in the beginning the monocrop, and then I can relate definitely to the abundance of zucchinis. And if you don't get to them soon, they balloon up into these huge, unedible entities and so forth. And yeah, waiting for the garden is synonymous with how it's described in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. There's a statement, Labvam sadurlabam idam bahusambhavante. Every body that we see around us, the squirrels, the birds, the centipedes, those are fields. They all have a field, but they're not all equal. And the consciousness within is equal, but the body itself has obviously different forms. And so when we come to a human form of life, we have to wait for it. Labvamsa durlabhamidam bahusambhava. This means in Sanskrit that after many births, and of course this is consistent with the uh, process mentioned in the Bhagavad Gītā and all the Eastern literatures, that we're on a continuum. We're spiritual sparks, conscious sparks, but we're migrating from one species to another, and it's an evolution. We're going from lower species to higher species. It's not like Darwinian evolution where matter creates consciousness. It's that consciousness creates matter. And according to our consciousness, we're given a particular body and we evolve to higher levels. So when we come to a human form of body, what the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam says, you've really got yourself a great field. So just like you had to wait, you and Lee J had to wait to get a field there in Palo Alto. So in a similar way, we have to wait as living entities to get a human body. So that's a big win. When you get a human body, you can realize, wow, I've got a body. I can really cultivate something now. And then I liked how you said you learned from other gardeners, and you also mentioned the amendments you use to make your garden grow. You mentioned nitrogen, and that formula is really important. If you put too much of one thing, it can burn the plants. If you don't have enough, they can be anemic and so forth. There's a lot to be done in cultivation of a garden. Thank you very much, Chuck. Okay, who else raised their hand? Vicky definitely did. Let's hear. What was your gardening experience? And let's hear you expand into some metaphor for today's topic.
I had quite a different gardening experience. I got really into plants with unique foliage during the pandemic. It was kind of a trend that was going around that people would put together these cabinets of controlled environments from the temperature to the lighting to um, whether there were mealy bugs or flies camping out in the soil. And they would be very scientific about the approach. So there's this kind of stone called leca, and they realized that that was better for certain plants. But something that I really learned in particular, I really loved how begonia leaves looked, but I was really bad at raising them. And a common theme for me was overwatering, which would lead to root rot. And I was so distraught because it was such a main focus during the quarantine. I tried to get in touch with a horticultural school in Florida so that a professional could help me out. But sometimes there's just nothing you can do. You have to let nature take the course. And I think back on my gardening experience a lot in terms of overwatering. It goes in the line of overthinking, overdoing, and going back to being balanced.
I like that, bringing in the point about balance. That's in Bhagavad Gītā. Krishna says, Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapna vibodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. He said, when you have your garden, learn how to balance everything. And you have a human body, is what he's talking about, then learn how to live a balanced life so that you can be a high thinker. And I really like the sophistication of your process, Vicky, and the specific ways that you used various elements. I wasn't aware of that trend, although I was also an avid gardener during the lockdown. Let's see, one more person had his or her hand up, at least one more.
I, yes, it was me.
Yes.
So I think being raised in the city life, I never got to, put my hands into gardening. But with having, I think when we moved here, I think I started first with the holy basil, and I realized it was overwhelming. It was fun to, be with, connect with Mother Nature, like, with the earth, those elements. I felt I was more, like you bring your energy down when you're connected to that, to Mother Earth. And I also felt it was also very tough because then you have to take care of it just like a child, like you have to water and then remove the weeds, and it needed all my time and attention also. And I also realized that when it dries out, then I felt like I became more prayerful because I felt it's not in my control. So yes, that's how.
Yeah, and this is consistent with something Chuck wrote also about visiting the garden frequently and paying attention to it consistently. This is so important as a metaphor for what we're going into, which is our own cultivation of us. I have a saying, Chuck, that I picked up somewhere, and that is that the best fertilizer is the gardener's shadow. And it's one that I remember quite frequently. And it's amazing how many changes are there in the garden overnight, even. and how many changes there are within us overnight. You can't take it for granted that we're always going to be the same. We have to be avid gardeners when we're cultivating ourselves and dealing with the modalities of the world that can come out of nowhere. We have to be ready in the garden for heat waves. You have to increase the watering, or maybe it gets a cold snap, or maybe there's an infestation of little critters who look like they're from outer space. And you're like, where'd you guys come from? And you mentioned weeds and so forth. It's very important. And I resonated also with that you learn every zucchini squash recipe. Okay, I love this picture that we have here for slide number 3. It looks so ordered to me. And somebody there has put up a grid, and they're planning where everything goes. And this is synonymous with the ideas given for those who want to become happy in life. You have to plan ahead and realize that there are mitigating factors in the world, but we can plan for those and we can also rise above them. Of course, the ultimate metaphor given by Chaitanya was that we're cultivating ourselves spiritually. And that's exclusively done, the cultivation part, in a human body, that we can decide what to do and how to increase our devotion and our spiritual acumen altogether. But do you find this picture satisfying? Maybe it's a personality type. I like to see order and plan ahead for things. It's a great picture. JM, good news. Wolf's here. He just put a comment up. Can you read it?
Yes. Wolf says, teaches us patience, delayed results, no immediate gratification.
Wow, that's such a good point. Yeah. And I always notice when I plant something and then I go away for some time and I'm not there conscious of the field, although I do have gardeners coming by to look, it's amazing to see the time lapse, the growth over certain periods of time. And if I'm just there watching it every single day, it's like, come on. So we can use our lifespan and know that consistency over time will be very effective. Okay, continuing the conversation and the metaphor itself. And the next one's something very obvious, but it's worth remembering because the literatures, the Upanishads, give us these rudimentary teachings that help us to come back to what's most important in life. Is it important to keep coming back to what's most important? Because we may get lost in the trivial. And I remember one of the speakers that I always remember, Jim Rohn, he always talked about don't major in minor things. And then this goes along with the gardening metaphor. You get what you cultivate. This is very important. JM, tell us what Sharat said.
Yes.
And Nirali.
Yeah, Nirali said that I appreciate the farmer, food, and all 5 elements playing a role that looks so easy in grocery store.
So true.
And Saraj says, garden is the safest place to practice your best effort since plant will not complain except showing sign of our success or not so successful.
Yeah. Well, I had replanted some vegetables because they volunteered in my front yard where I didn't think I could take care of them. So I moved them to the back bed. And the first day I'd moved them there, they looked quite unhappy. And there was a film crew over here. We were shooting some videos. And I was apologizing. I said, don't worry, they're okay. They're not going to actually die because I was worried people might think that my garden was looking a little peaked. But yeah, the relationship we have with plants is quite telling. And I love this picture, as I noticed below there are kanjis, these pictographs, Some of them are actual pictographs. Other ones are a little more creative. Not that pictographs aren't creative, but we can see the different plantings going on here, the seeds that are going in. Most plants and many seeds look similar. Some seeds look vastly different. But unless you're an expert in seeds, you don't know exactly what it is, perhaps. And what's more, seeds look kind of insignificant, but they're not at all. I mean, what is a seed anyway? Who thought of that? A seed. All the information is there within the seed. There's even some nutrient there packed in. It's like a mother packed a lunch for it, said, okay, go out in the world, do something. And when it comes in contact with the soil and the water and so forth, and it comes out, there's enough nutrient there within the little seed pod so that it can sustain itself as a seedling. But the main point here is that you get what you cultivate. If you plant, sorry to state the obvious, but I think it's there in the Upanishads, so we might as well say it here too. If you plant carrot seeds, you're not going to get cucumbers. And if we have false expectations about what we're going to get in life and don't trace it back to the way we're doing our own planting, then this is illusory. And an illusory lifestyle is not very satisfying. But what is satisfying is coming to grips with how what we're planting is coming up in various ways. So being fully aware that the seeds we plant will give us specific results. And in our lives also, we have to be very much aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, so we can cultivate our consciousness to the highest level. Now that brings us to something I alluded to a few minutes ago, and in slide number 5, we have this oft-repeated concept in many of the ancient literatures, the Upanishads and the Vedas, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gītā, that human life has a very specific purpose. It's not willy-nilly. It's meant for us to cultivate something that bears a specific fruit. And therefore, we can count on the cultivation process if we follow a system and we're vigilant about it. We can expect something amazing. I think all plants are amazing. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I mean, how does it happen? How does it bear fruit, flowers, and come right out of the ground, and so forth? And human life can be an amazing adventure at every moment if we're invested in the cultivation process. But keeping in mind, the main point is that's what we're meant for, according to the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which says human life is meant to cultivate spiritual consciousness. Period. Full stop. It ends there. And if we do that, then we'll get the best fruits and flowers that will fully satisfy and nourish us. That's the implication. That's why it's important. Here's the definition of the word cultivate. I know you're wondering about that. So we provided it right here, obviously from Latin. Cultiva terra. It comes from a phrase. The phrase means arable land. Cultiva terra, as in terra means the earth, terra firma. From colere, cultivate, inhabit. Try to acquire or develop a quality, a sentiment, or a skill. So this is important in the context of our ongoing conversation about the modes of nature and how they affect us. We can cultivate those. It's not that we're helpless. We, as humans, can understand causality. We understand causality and we take help from knowledge from a higher source. We can amend the way we're doing things in our life, albeit step at a time. It's not so easy to turn around a battleship going in a certain direction. And this cultivation helps us to develop something extremely beautiful and desirable, a quality, a sentiment, or a skill that can come out of us. And when we cultivate our consciousness, then we get the best of all possible results. Here we have a hand up, JM. So you're the person who deals with all the hands and the comments. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead, Alaguppa.
Yes, I just wanted to share where I grew up as a farmer. So how important is to keep the seed intact, the high quality, and how much care actually farmer actually take about it. So I remember actually that for next year crop, we will preserve the seed in a very contained, protected environment so it doesn't get damaged, and then very well taken care of throughout the year so that next year when we need to use that seed, which is of high quality seed for the next crop. So I, I think that to preserving the seed itself is an art so that it doesn't get damaged or doesn't get polluted over the period of time as well. So I just thought to share.
I'm glad you brought the conversation back to seeds. Big on seeds. When you're planning your garden, it behooves you to research and find where to get the best seeds. And then, as you pointed out, Radhakripa, we have to protect them and make sure that they don't get damaged. So there's a cautionary tone to this, that when you get these rare seeds, be careful. Don't take them for granted. Don't waste them by throwing them in places they won't grow. Of course, there's a lot of that in the Bible, talking about where the seeds land, whether they'll actually germinate or not. And seeds indicate something very subtle. Everything starts from the subtle and grows into the gross. So if we want to know how we got to where we are now, it has to do with seeds. In the Bhagavad Gītā, Krishna says, Karanam guna sangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. If you want to observe where the good and bad is coming from in your life, there's a cause. It's not random. It's not guesswork. There is a cause. If you want to look at the science behind it and not just be a helpless, hopeless, hapless person, then you can see that there is a reason for everything that happens and unfolds, and we have a lot to do with it. It's what we're cultivating from Karnam Guna Sangosya, in this case, speaking about the subtlety of our association. That's one of the places where idea seeds get planted in our mind. If you associate with people who have a particular bent in life, then that will become your primary focus as well. That's why people who are cultivating knowledge, they try to go to a university and so forth. JM Sharat has a hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to say something a little bit different.
Okay.
So, in the same context, say get something whether you can make it a little bit better. That also gives a little bit pleasure. So, I'm giving you an example. While walking to train station, I found a snake plant, and while going, and I thought, oh, it's falling under concrete. I guess if I plant it, it will look beautiful. But since I was just going to office, so I felt like since if I take it now, by the time I reach office or come back, it will be dead anyway. So I threw it just near a tree, and I forgot. And after a week or so, I just remembered, oh, I threw a plant here. Let me see if it is still there. It was still there. I took it back home, and it was completely dried up that time. And I thought probably it was waiting for me to take care of. I planted it at home, and it started giving seedling. And now I have probably 6-7 plant grown out of that dead plant almost. So I feel very happy about it, like, where from I got it, and I gave a completely different shape, and I gave life to the plant. So I don't care how it is, because I do not have control of the source or quality at the beginning, but if I can make it better from there, just that thought.
How satisfying. What a story. I feel satisfied by hearing that story. Just that You saw it, you recognized it, you put it aside, you came back, rescued it, and then it multiplied into many. And now it's a great success story. And starting with something that looks lifeless, bringing the elements that support it, bringing it back to life. That could also be related to our own spiritual practices. We may feel dead or dried up, but there's always hope if we get into the right environment. And that's one of the other um, lessons we learn from the modes of material nature. If we're able to cultivate, and that means we know, as you knew, Sharat, that this wilted plant needs certain environment to thrive. We need it too. And it may come into our mind that, well, I'm dried up, there's no hope for me. But if we have information, here's how to rise above the modes of material nature, get into good association, start your practice again, and continue, as they say, watering. It's called Shravanati Jal, giving the water of the spiritual practice. We may also come back to life. What to speak of, get other people involved, just like your plant expanded into many different iterations of itself. Thank you so much, Sharat.
Thanks.
That was great. Yeah, I'm always amazed too at the power of plants, how they're able to expand themselves. Sometimes all you need, like with a geranium, is just a little piece of the geranium. You can plant it anywhere and it'll come up. Succulents are like that too. One leaf from a succulent turns into a root system that grows another succulent. Very interesting. Sounds spiritual to me. Okay, let's look at the three cultivations. Ta-da! Wow, look at this. This is an interesting picture. Why don't you explain it, JM?
Sure. So basically, in the next few slides, you'll see that there are three key aspects of our life that we can cultivate. And various elements of those are depicted here as an overview before going into the next slide. And cultivation, again, it's represented here as tree, right from seed to nurturing of the seed through different elements shown here, through knowledge, through activities, etc. And it's flourishing into a big blossom tree, which is what we want our life to be. Like we want our life to blossom and fulfill the purpose that's it's meant to be. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for such a beautiful work of art. Okay, let's embark on the three cultivations. Everybody ready? Wait a minute, don't move the slide yet. I want to make sure everyone's ready. I need some kind of, okay, Vicky's got her finger right on the button. Here we go. Three cultivations. The body. So someone say, oh, you don't want to take care of the body. It's not spiritual. It's just a material thing. No, that's not what the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam says. It says you have to take care of your body. It's the dwelling in which the essence of who you are dwells. And wait a minute, did I say the dwelling in which we dwell? Please let me go back. It's a structure, it's a tabernacle, it's a temple, it's a place where the very essence of who we are, we're living in it. And what's more, we need it. We need to use the body, albeit temporarily, and it is temporary, to come to the perfection of life. So we need the body. And therefore, it's important. There are three different areas: diet, exercise, and sleep. That the diet's extremely important. And can you change your diet? Is it possible to change your diet? Let's see if anybody vote yes. If yes, say, wait a minute, how should I conduct such a survey? And only Vicky voted anyway. Is it possible to change your diet? Pramila says thumbs up. Bukharavinda says yes. Radha Kripa. SN says yes. Wolf didn't vote. Wolf's not voting. He's apolitical. He won't participate in the voting process. Nicholas, okay, Wolf gave a heart. That's good. I think we have a quorum. Can you change your diet? Yes, you can change your diet. Is it easy? No. If you go back home and say, I'm not going to do this I'm not eating this anymore. I became a vegetarian when I was 13. I traced it out to I was talking with my brother the other day, and I was trying to find periods in my life. And I remember when I came home and I was late for dinner. I walked in and you're late for dinner, and I said, I'm not eating that. They said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm a vegetarian. It's like, what? And that's when it started. And I just changed my diet. But it wasn't easy because right after that, my parents took us on vacation to Europe. And my mother said, if you just wait till we get home, I'll take care of you. And I've heard from so many people, if they make a slight change in their diet and their wife or their husband or their mother or their grandmother or somebody says like, what do you mean you're not going to eat this anymore? You're going to eat that instead? What are you talking about? We always eat this. It's kind of rut that we can get into, and it's part of the modes of nature. We eat according to the quality of our consciousness. And changing that can have such an impact on our lives, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, that it's worth looking into how to adjust the diet. So that's one thing that's highly recommended is being careful what you eat and finding out what is a healthy and spiritually based diet, which means you make the act of eating sacred, and you're also careful what you eat because your body is a machine and it needs certain elements, and most people are blissfully, for a while, unaware that there's causality between what you eat and the way that you feel and how healthy you are. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Now I'm ready for the next one.
I just wanted to say that I
Yes.
can launch a poll anytime you want, so let me know if you like.
Oh, now we're getting scientific. This is science-based, this program. We only do science-based research, controlled experiments. Okay, what are the other two for when it comes to the body and cultivation? Next one, no, we're still on body, right? Body, then there's exercise. If you don't move your body, then the body gets unhealthy. It's got to move around. And walking is a good exercise. There's lots of good exercises, but moving is a really good idea. Make sure you sleep enough. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gītā, don't sleep too much, but also don't sleep too little. And study the science of sleep because it's when the brain recreates itself, rearranges everything. And that's when many glands and hormones in the body, glands that emit hormones, are at work, and you can't skip it and still be healthy. So the body is a project you have to keep healthy. Kamasya nendriya priti labo jivete yava. The ancient script says, stay healthy so that you can cultivate yourself. Okay, next one is mind. Mind is part of the physical body, but it's very subtle. And we're training our subtle bodies. You have to train your subtle bodies. It's not that you can just let it do anything it wants and then it'll cooperate with you later. You have to be very deliberate about it. So we talked about service mind in another program, but training your mind to think how to do good for others is highly recommended. Controlling speech and the conversations you have so much to do with the state of your mind. Say 20% less of what you think you need to say. And be careful what you say. Speak truthfully. Otherwise, you'll disturb your mind. Speak things that are beneficial. Avoid speech that offends. And recitation of Vedas. That's important. Veda means spiritual knowledge. And then reading. Reading is really good for the mind, whereas scrolling isn't. Reading something that educates. If you watch television or scroll, it'll scramble your brain. And if you read a book, you get yourself together. Your mind will be much more focused. Don't scramble your brain. Okay, and then we had body, we had mind, and now we have consciousness. That's who we are. We're actually the conscious spark within the body. That's what animates the whole body. So meditation on universal consciousness. That's an awareness that we're part of something much bigger. And becoming aware of what's called the Param Atma, or the spiritual essence that pervades everything, that gives us intelligence, that's guiding us, that's maintaining everything. When we can connect to that source of our very selves, that's available at every second because it's within everything. Like tapestry is the otam protam, the horizontal and vertical threads, they're tied together. That consciousness, universal consciousness, pervades everything. We need only tap into it. Hearing transcendental sound is vital. This is the main process for spiritual upliftment in the process of the Vedas, which are called Shruti. It means hearing. State of what you hear. Excuse me. I'll start concentrating on what I'm saying and try to speak proper English. The quality of what you hear will determine the quality of your consciousness. So find out, do the study of what transcendental sound is. There's sound that comes from beyond the modes of material nature. It's not contaminated by the modes of material nature. It's transcendental. And when you hear that kind of sound, it purifies your consciousness. Would you like to have purified consciousness? I'm going to vote on that one. Yes, I would. And then third is prayer. Prayer is a way of directly connecting to the Supreme. So it's natural. There's no atheists in foxholes. As soon as we're in danger, we say, oh, help me. That's a prayer. And when we say, oh my God, that's a prayer. But if you're more deliberate and don't do it as immediate response to your environment and you think about it, you can connect to the Supreme Consciousness through prayer. If you go like this is like the universal mudra for prayer. It's kind of like a lightning rod. You could take this and the consciousness from the Supreme comes right through your fingertips into your heart. So prayer is really important too. Try it when you first wake up in the morning and before you go to bed at night or throughout the day. And before you start a meeting, next time you go to a board meeting, one of your corporate meetings, say, excuse me, can we say a prayer before we start? And see what happens. Before you eat, that's been a tradition in many countries for a long time. At least saying something. Like in Japan, they say itadakimasu, which means now we're receiving some grace. So this is one of the immediate and very direct ways that we can connect our consciousness to the Supreme Consciousness. And now JM comes to reflections, and that means, if you don't mind, please share anything you heard or felt during the conversation today. Ariana, please go ahead. Oh, you're just saying hi.
Hi, I'm at a restaurant, but just basically like the idea of taking care of your body and having a nice matcha right now. But really, I've noticed when I don't eat well, like I can't make decisions as well, and my brain gets foggy and cloudy. So just the importance of exercise and working out and eating well is like really resonating and hitting in with them. But just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, good, great to see you. You say you're tuning in from a restaurant somewhere?
Yeah, I actually just did a Pilates class and I'm at a healthy, nice restaurant. So just having lunch and tuning in.
You practice what you preach.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great to see it. We feel the energy coming from there. It feels like sattva. Definitely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Pramila put up something in the chat, JM.
Yeah. Pramila says, I did have all in my book club do a 5-minute meditation before starting to talk. That day, a lot of people had come and lots of talk was going on. And everyone was calm and present before starting.
Well, I'm glad you tried that, Pramila. JM knows I do it before every meeting, and it's really helpful because oftentimes I get on a Zoom and everyone's talking and this and that. What was it like, Pramila? Tell us more about it.
I do a lot of meditation, so I wanted to, get people in without, feeling them intimidated. So 5 minutes was just the right dose. So we had, 12 people come in that day. So it was a lot, and everybody likes to talk, and there was a lot of chatter going on, and one or two new people. So I think once we did that, it's just that everybody was together and calm and ready to talk with an open mind. As book clubs can get, everybody can get very passionate and lots of opinions. So you discuss with an open mind and togetherness, whatever comes to it. So that helps.
Yeah, and what you said, one of the elements there, it was you mentioned how it's passionate environment, and talking about the modalities that we've been discussing, where in the Gita, Krishna talks about how there's tamas, that low energy that drags everyone down, then passion, which is rajas, this frenetic energy. Everyone's talking at the same time, no specific topic. And then sattva, where everyone feels calm and focused. And as you said, that they feel togetherness. And it's definitely an example that you've given here of how, and goes along with our talk today, how you can cultivate sattva. If you're very purposeful, you come into a group, and before you start, let's all be together. Let's be very clear on what we're doing and take a moment to rise above that frenetic energy. It's a good example. It's practical, very practical. Thank you very much, Pramila. Excellent. Okay. We have time for a couple more reflections. Anything you heard, felt, saw, practice in your own life? Tell us what you're thinking. Don't make me come in there. Okay, Kripa, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking that all these three elements are important. It is not that I should pick one and ignore other. So I felt it is, I cannot only focus on one. Okay, I make my body all good, but then if I'm not uplifting my self-consciousness with, connecting with the higher self, controlling the mind, then good body may be misused if mind is not in a good state of mind. So all threes are important. So
very good point. And it's the ethos of the Greek culture many years ago, that all of them they all go together. And therefore they had this sense that body, mind, spirit, they should all be in balance. There is a concept I heard a long time ago that I relate to, another Jim Rohn quote where he said, every discipline affects every other. So if you let down in one place, say, oh, I only let down in the one place, but that affects your consciousness to let down in other places. And by the same token, when you help yourself by being aware that sattva is like poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end, like Ariana, you went to Pilates class today, and who knows, you might have thought for 1 second, like, maybe I won't go today, but then you went anyway. And then, you do the work, and afterwards, look at your smile. So this is it's a holistic experience. All of us have these three aspects to deal with together. Fantastic. Well, Jam, there's 1 minute left. Does anybody else want to make a last reflection?
There are a couple who can. Go ahead, Vicky.
Vicky, go for it.
I have a question, if time allows. Often in gardening, we talk about how when we don't see conventional results, it's more so about the fact that we have to remember there are roots being put down. And in one particular slide, I liked how the roots actually said strength and learn, and I think positive growth or new beginnings. And I was wondering how that analogy translates in a spiritual sense in terms of incubation. Is it that we shouldn't look to conventionally measure our progress, but more so keep steady practice and faith and determination, because what's below reflects what's above?
Yeah, well, I think it's human nature to check on both. That's why within the bhakti literature, there are so many signposts saying that here's how you might feel at this point or at this point or at this point. And it's also helpful to know, for instance, I brought some seeds in, I'm not going to say from where, and that I was able to grow the tree seeds. But in any case, I had no idea if they would grow or not, and I looked them up online and how to germinate them. I followed everything to the letter because I wanted to do a controlled experiment, and I planted them in the ground, and it took them a long time to germinate. I had given up. I thought these are, hey, it was a good try. I brought them from another place, and they're never going to grow. And then when they came up, I was so surprised. I was dancing in my greenhouse. And so, it is helpful to have some signposts and some what the breadcrumbs people have left behind before, saying this is the path is going to be like this, to measure. We have to be patient on one side, and we should also know that the things can vary in a garden. Seeds can take some seeds take a lot longer to come up, and there are various reasons why in our own lives we may make more progress or less progress, but progress is progress. Everyone has their own speed they go at. I think the major principle is that we should all go according to what we can handle in the very moment and not compare ourselves to others. Every self-respecting yoga teacher says that to the class anyway. Don't compare yourself to others, right? Anyway, this has just been a joy. Thank you very much. I see Ramani's here at the last minute. Hi, Ramani. And thanks everyone for joining. There is a really joyful tradition that I learned from the yogis in the Himalayas, that when they see each other or when they're departing from having a little sangha, they put their arms up in the air and they say Hari Bol, which is an encouragement to say, keep the transcendental vibration going. You want to try it? I'm going to do it. Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Thanks, everybody.
Haribol.
See you soon.